Hi, Soman.
Hi. I was thinking about the fact that our show is called Plot Twist, and it always ends with us discussing plot twists we want in real life, and we are 0 for 16 in terms of
That's
any
not
of those.
true. We're 1 for 16 because one of my plot twists was I want my edit letter, and I got it. So
Okay.
we are 1
We
for
cheated
16.
to not be at 0%.
Hi, I'm Victoria Aveyard, the author of The Red Queen and the Realmbreaker series.
And I'm Soman Shinani, author of the School for Good and Evil series, and welcome to Plot Twists, the podcast that takes you behind the scenes of the biggest swings in our careers. Victoria's Tempest, her very first novel for adults, an epic pirate fantasy.
And Soman's Young World, a red-hot young adult political thriller. Each week, we go behind the curtain of our creative process and give you our hot takes on thorny issues in publishing and entertainment. We answer your mailbag questions, plus we pitch plot twists we want to see in real life.
And today's hot topic, do authors have pretty privilege?
Literally hot.
We have so much to say about this, and I'm sure at least what I'm going to say is highly controversial.
No, I don't think it will be, but we are going to unleash a 10-year-long torrent that we've been building up.
100%. Our entire childhood is coming at you very soon. But let's go on to our first segment, where each week we come up with our theme of the week, a word or a phrase that encapsulates the essence of our week on and off the page. Tell us your theme.
My theme is, and I feel like all of my themes are travel related or movement related, but my theme this week is eyes on the road. So I am actually in a very good groove on my edits for Tempest. I have the roadmap really clearly laid out in front of me. I've gotten the answer to all my questions from my editorial team. I just have to keep up my momentum and stay on the road, essentially. I also keep telling myself, like, you're back in the happy space. Like, you're back in those few weeks where it's just you and the draft, you and the road, and this is the part that you enjoy. Enjoy it. Like, I'm on target with my process. I'm not scrambling. I'm not up against the wall with the deadline yet. I can just enjoy the story and the work. I am also trying to enjoy my summer at home until work travel starts up again for me in the fall, and getting to the beach as much as I can. And maintain balance at home with my laundry. The laundry really gets me. But also staying active and the usual admin that comes with being an author. We've got some fun things in the pipeline that are finally coming together that I'm really excited to talk about when I can talk about them.
Well, let's talk about some of these things that you're working on. Like, first of all, now that you're in edits and kind of deep in the world again, do you find yourself like retreating from maybe some of the other things that were filling time before, like social media or admin and stuff like that? Like, is your priority now, like on a daily basis, like I'm in edits, that's what's dominating how I structure my time?
That sounds nice. That sounds balanced. That sounds healthy. Again, and I've been saying this for God knows how many episodes now. I am in the scale back, and I have been intending to scale back for years. But I am doing my best to kind of pull back on the ropes a little bit. And now I have this podcast where you're like, tell me what's going on in the world. So every week I got to be like, well, Soman tells me I have to be here.
This is your accountability meeting for the week. How are the edits feeling themselves?
They're feeling good. They're feeling doable. I am someone who really kills myself over the first draft, and my first drafts, from what I've been told, are pretty clean. And while it sucks when you're in that first draft and you're slamming up against it, when it comes to the edits, you're like, okay, I did a lot of the work already. I did a lot of the thought process already. And so that's pretty validating to have these moments where I'm reading it and I'm like, wait a second, like, this works. Like, this is fine. And then I have my actual notes and I'm finding out, like, oh, I can actually, with these 2 lines, I can address this whole note and it changes this whole thing, but it's not that much heavy lifting on my part. That's always fun. And then there's one particular big new sequence that I'm adding to the draft that I'm really excited to write, to the point where I started writing it in my head and I was like, no, Victoria, you can't write it until you get there. Don't waste the energy in the shower.
But the word that got everybody listening right now, their shoulders went up, as you said, adding.
I know. And there, again, I'm going to repeat what I said last week. There are some things I can't say right now. And we're sort of in that, okay, now we can't talk about release dates and schedules and timelines and other structural things
Yeah.
because I don't have the green light to talk about them
Yeah,
anymore.
yeah,
And
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
like,
But
okay, great. You guys know I have a podcast, right? And like the whole thing is we're going to let you in on the process.
but you have a plan. That's all
Yeah.
anybody cares about. There's the plan.
Yes, I love having a plan. How's your plan going? Because last week you were real hunky dory, and now I want to
You're
know
going to
how
be
that's going
shocked
for
to
you.
hear this, which is, I can't believe I'm even saying this out loud, but my theme for the week is actually burned out, which
Yeah.
is unusual because you know me, I don't like to admit weakness. And
Karl Lagerfeld, never let him
like
see you sweat.
100,
That's Soman.
and the fact that I'm actually overcooked
Mm,
is a weird feeling to A, feel, and then B, have to talk about it, but it's the actual truth. And I had this absolute dream trip in London where, I got to go to Wimbledon, went to see Evita opening, week. And then I got to meet all these tennis pros at Wimbledon through a friend. And we went to Clarkson's farm and Scott got his dream of going to the restaurant through, some machinations that I orchestrated. We snuck onto the farm. Like, it was kind of this dream trip that, had we filmed for TV, might have been like the peak of our life and we could die now. And what no one saw is, I had all these wonderful pictures up of
mm.
everything we were doing and that sort of beautiful social media veneer that we're always talking about.
Oh
But what
God.
no one saw is that I was carrying around the Young World proof everywhere I went. And I talked about this last week, but every spare minute I had this, 500 plus page book that I'm carrying around in this tote bag. I'm working on it in trains and planes and everywhere to get it perfect. And, as you know, working on a proof of a book is oddly emotional. It's
Mm,
this really intense period because you're trying to get every last detail right. You're obsessed with every pixel of how it is on the page. But in the case of Young World, there's over 200 visual elements too. So it's almost like making a movie. And so I'm obsessive about trying to get it exactly perfect. And I think just that feeling of, okay, this 3-year dream is finally on the page, but it's not quite looking exactly like I want yet.
yeah.
And spending, 3 weeks, hours a day, like trying to wrangle this proof into exactly what I wanted. And finally kind of getting there, like having all you when you do a proof, you leave comments that
Hmm.
tells the designer and the editor what to fix. And normally I have about 200 comments in terms of, what I need changed for it to be final. This one had more than 700. So
Uh,
because of all the design, like
oh,
move this here,
I
move this up 2
feel for
nanometers.
your team.
Oh, I feel for them too. But the good thing is it's out of my hands now.
Mm,
And there's other trains in the station. I got to work on the edits for the School for Good and Evil graphic novel, the first volume, the fantasy book. I have to go into part 2. But I am totally out of gas. And
yeah.
so I was curious. It's an unusual feeling for me because usually I'm good at avoiding getting in this
Hmm.
swamp. What happens? Have you felt this? And what do you do when you get to burnout phase?
Yes. I think we all hit burnout phase in different stages and different ways. For
Mm.
me, maybe this is sick, but I always hit burnout stage when I'm up against a deadline.
Mm.
And usually the deadline wins. I'm like, everything about me can fall, I can crumble. I need to hit the deadline. And Tempest was the first book I've ever written where I was like, I'm not going to make this deadline and I'm going to send an incomplete draft because the
Mm.
burnout was so bad. I was producing like 6,000 words a day, 5 to 6 days a week for weeks.
Mm.
And it just felt like running full pelt. To be fair, I don't really know what it feels like to run, but I imagine that's what it felt like. Uh, but I am really sorry because my cure to burnout is to go on a vacation. And you just went on vacation and took the burnout with you.
I
Like you
had like
need a
a
vacation from the vacation.
100%. I did one of those Real Housewives
Oh,
vacations that
God,
was
no.
just too much activity.
And I'm not surprised you're overcooked because you were literally in England during a heat wave
Mm.
and they do not have the infrastructure for it. So you are a little cooked.
100%. We had fans blowing on us everywhere. It was just like it was impossible. And then you're carrying around this proof at the same time, and I don't know. It felt like a fever dream because
No,
everything was happening
when
in
you
it.
said you were taking it with you, in the back of my mind, I thought, I know it's probably a deadline thing, but I really wouldn't do that if you don't absolutely have to. And
I
you did.
unfortunately there was no way around it. But
I
you
have a
know,
suspicion
tell
you
me.
kind of like the burnout. You like the moment where you're like, I've been working so hard. I'm just so burnt out. Look at me,
It's
performer.
true, but it's me alone in my apartment, and I don't have an audience for it until now.
Until now. But that is the thing. I do think that's not just you. I think all of us a little bit, we get a little bit of joy of being like,
Mm,
I work so hard at this thing that is my passion and my
mm.
livelihood and my purpose that I've burnt myself out on it. And
Yep.
that's almost, it's not like a point of pride, but it's like, wow, I really get to do this to the point where it's causing me pain.
And it comes back, you do refuel pretty
Mm-hmm.
quick. I feel like, it's probably just a matter of days versus true burnout, which I think can take you out for a very,
Yes,
very long period
yes,
of time.
yes. And another remedy that I have, at least when I'm on normal time, like what I'm doing right now, when I'm in the good part,
Mm,
I don't work on the weekends. You do
hmm.
work on the
Yeah.
weekends.
Yep. Yeah. Because on the weekends, I'm at the farm, and there is no better place to write than when you're on a farm surrounded by
Well,
cows and
is it
beautiful
your way of
things.
getting out of farm chores? I have to go right.
There are times where like I'm helping and there's flies
I
and
can't bale the hay.
poop,
I
and I'm
have a proof I have to go look at. And Scotty's like, sure.
speaking of work, let's go into our next segment, which is
Hmm.
our goals for the week. But we always start with how we did on our goals for the previous week. So tell us how you scored.
I'm gonna say something I don't get to say very often. I scored high.
Mm.
I need that sound effect of what you just did. It was a little Ewoky.
Mm,
Anyway, I had that editorial meeting. That was right after we recorded. That gave me basically the roadmap that I'm working with now. I had all my questions answered. We basically got the like full steam ahead. We are all on the same page. We know what we're doing. We're happy with what we're doing. And I just get to motor. Um, I can't say what those big discussions were
mhm,
yet, but I love knowing the path in front of me. I'm one of
mm.
those people where when I do a workout, I need the timer in the corner telling me
Yeah.
how much longer I have, and my husband has to cover it. And I'm like, no, I need to know. So I need to know where the finish line is, and I know where
Yeah.
the finish line is and what I need to do to get there. And I just love that. So I'm going to give myself an A because
Mm.
that was my big goal of last week was getting the roadmap and starting the road, and I have done that.
And the other question I have is, you said last week, once you have that meeting with them and got everything aligned, then you don't interact with them again
Yeah.
until the edits are done. Does that
Yeah.
still hold true?
It does still hold true, and maybe that's why I'm back in this like my happy place because again,
Mm,
it's just me and the work. There's no other voices. I almost wonder if the way that I write and the way that I edit comes from like the fan fiction days, which is how I first started writing creatively, is you
mm,
would write the chapter and post it, and the next morning I would wake up and I'd be like, "Oh my God, reviews."
yeah.
And I would read the feedback and then I would go on and do the next chapter, and it was very like they could tell me things, but they had no hand in the process
Yep.
when I was doing it. And so that almost is what it feels like is when you turn it in and you're like, I'm waiting for my review.
Yes. And then you get the review, and then you're like, okay, go away.
Yeah.
I'm back on. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Makes total
Yes.
sense. How about your goals for this week?
Goals for this week, more edits. I basically, when every book that I edit, I set up an Excel sheet and I use
Mm,
sort of my traffic light system where I have the list of the chapters. The ones that I haven't done are in red. The ones that I'm in process on are in yellow. And the ones
mm.
that are done are in green. And I have to work linearly. And I have like the word count of each chapter so I can see, if things are imbalanced, where the weight is. And it's very, very pleasing to me. I'm such a teacher's pet. This is
I
like my
am
version of the
dying.
sticker.
The idea that you have a spreadsheet. I mean, if someone asked me where I was in my edit process, I would literally be like, ask the elves.
I'm at the midpoint. I know where I am. But again, this is all about knowing the road, knowing how much farther I have on the road, knowing how much time I have, knowing how much gas in the tank I have. I need to
Mm,
know all of those things so that I can perform. And maybe that makes me precious,
mm,
but that's my system. And then I have like the plot map as well of like, this is act one, this happens in this chapter, this chapter, this chapter, especially because I'm doing some structural things. So having it laid out in that way is really nice for me, especially because now I'm working in the big Microsoft Word document with track changes
mm.
on a long fantasy novel. Slit my throat. Oh my God. I had the first Microsoft Word crash yesterday.
Only one? I mean, they've improved.
Yeah. And the pinwheel spun, and I just thought,
Oh,
kill me.
God.
And I let it spin, and it spun for 10 minutes, and then it fixed itself.
What?
I didn't know it could do that.
You know, authors are so interior that I surveyed people and like we all just assume it's us that crashed it. It's our computer. It's our
It's
fault. And
not
then
built for us.
when you talk to everybody, you're like, wait a second, this is a class action lawsuit. Wait.
I have pain and suffering caused by you,
uh,
Microsoft Word.
100%. Okay, what else?
My other goals. I have a few events over the next few weeks where I am joining authors for their new book launches. And I'm sort of prepping for that. I had one last night, and it's always nice to get to either meet authors I've never met before or
Mm.
join authors I know and just get to chit chat. And that's one of those things that fuels me a little bit
Yeah.
too. As insane as that sounds, to be like, I'm going to leech your energy.
Mm.
But it gets you excited about the process and writing and the job that we get to do. And then I have a big work trip in the fall that we've just started announcing. One of the stops is going to be in the Netherlands for a romanticy ball.
Oh my God.
So I'm sort of organizing myself there, and I'm getting anxious about it already, of the thought of, trains and luggage, and love touring in Europe, but the trains and the luggage is
Yeah,
really,
yeah,
really
yeah.
tough when you're hauling hair and makeup and clothes, and you're supposed to be on camera or in front of people. It's really tough as a woman. Men show
Which
up with a backpack and they're
we're going to talk
great. We
about
are
all of
going to
this.
talk about
This is literally the subject of the episode.
And my sort of pie in the sky goal for this week that maybe I won't do, because and now I'm thinking I probably won't get to it, but I should, is I want to get the ball rolling on the sort of the what comes next conversation with my agent, now that we have the roadmap for Tempest and we know what the timeline looks like for Tempest. And I know when Tempest will be out of my hands, and my hands need something to do. I got to
Yeah.
keep working. So
Yeah,
I would
yeah,
love
yeah.
to start that
Oh my God, you have a
conversation.
full slate ahead. So we'll be curious to hear how you do on those goals.
What about you?
Mine last week were okay. Finished Young World Proof, done, and that's an A plus because it was literally the
That's
most
huge.
I could give. Like it was everything I could possibly give. Number two was when I was in London. I wanted to meet the tennis podcast team, which was done, and they invited me to come to their show in New York, which I'm going to do. I mean, I'm the only person in the world who literally flies like across the world to go to like a live taping of a podcast I'm going to hear anyway. It's
Maybe
ridiculous.
one day someone will fly across the world to come
I
to a
mean,
live taping of
you
our
better. Okay,
podcast.
everyone listening to this, we expect you to use your miles. Okay, and then number three was try to get a little rest at Clarkson Farm, which didn't really happen because we went to the gift shop, we went to the restaurant, we did all these amazing things, but I was like, can't we just go on the farm? And Scott's like, no, it's not open to the public. I said, but there's public footpaths through almost every farm in England. It's just part of the way the government works.
Yes.
So I chat GPT'd and asked, can you tell me where the nearest public footpath is that takes you directly through Clarkson's farm? So it gave me one, and I was like, let's try it. And we
Did you
tried
double
it.
check it?
Oh, kind of,
Oh,
but we didn't. No
Soman.
one knows really where exactly the farm is. So we took this 3-hour detour. We hiked all the way through, and we ended up directly on the farm. And the workers are all there. All the signature like set elements are there, and we're literally right in front of it. And Scott's going pale. The workers are all staring at us as if to be like, "Oh, you figured out the hack. Like you figured it out." So he said it was the equivalent of us going to a Taylor Swift concert and stumbling into her dressing room. So he thinks I'm a magician. Like he literally thinks.
I was thinking, walking through Area 51 by accident.
I love how you see it only as
Oh my God.
as the illegality of the entire thing, and I'm like, oh, I'm Madonna again.
That is true. And you are right. Public walking in the UK is very protected. So you were probably right.
Yeah, no, we were on the footpath.
I would be concerned about not looking like I'm on a walk. Like I would have been like with my stick.
So this is okay. So I tried that. So I was like, listen, just keep walking, whatever. We look like Americans on a hike. It's totally fine. He goes, you are carrying a Clarkson Farm souvenir bag, giant souvenir bag. And I was like,
Soman.
Shit. So they just glared us down until we left. But
I would have dressed like an old granny from the farm next door with my scarf and my barber jacket, and on we go. I had a full backstory.
I had my little Wimbledon tank top and my Clarkson Farm
You
bag.
were in a tank top? Oh my God, so
bad.
man.
Anyway, so my goals for this week are a little simpler, which are Number one, end discussion on the Young World cover. We have a cover that is so beautiful and perfect that I've stared at it for weeks and months and like do not want to change a pixel after all that drama that we talked about in the first few episodes. And they're still like futzing with it. And I'm like, stop.
Oh my gosh.
Don't touch it. So anyway,
Can you show it to me? Like, what the hell? I
I'm
haven't
gonna send it to you.
seen.
I'm just like
Yes.
they keep trying to. I hear the word refine over and over. I'm like, I don't want it refined. Leave it. Like leave
Listen,
it.
we don't work in the corporate world. We don't want to hear the
No,
corporate speak. Don't give me. We're gonna circle back. I don't want it.
no
I'm not
refining.
on Slack for a reason.
It's finished. It's done. Take the win. Take the W.
Yes.
Number two is ease back into part two of my fantasy novel, which I'm hoping will happen next week to start to begin that new section. Just also getting my routine back on track, tennis, training, all the things that keep
Mm,
me kind of balanced. And last but not least, kind of leave burnout behind, which is like find a little bit of that kind of magic inspiration again, which I think will come once all the other three things are in place.
Do you have something that you do when you hit these moments? Is it, I'm going to watch this movie, I'm going to reread this book, or I'm just going to go sit outside in the sunshine and let the wind play across my face for however many days it takes?
I think it's funny. There's this Indian guru named Sadhguru who always says you need a ratio of 2/3 intake and 1/3 expression, especially if
Mm.
you're an artist. And I think I just was in 3/3
Yeah.
expression.
Yes, you
And
weren't
so
taking.
I think that's it. I think
Okay.
once you start to just, I'm gonna go see Superman, I'll
Oh,
be
I'm
at the
going tonight.
farm. Oh, is it? Oh yeah, you go to you always go to the Thursday night.
I
Yeah,
do.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's
So
an
anyway,
Aveyard family tradition. I'm taking my parents, and my husband's like, "Why are we going to a movie on a Thursday?" I'm like, "You don't understand."
we're going to discuss this next week in our reactions because I tend to not to like Superman because he has pretty
Mm.
privilege, and I feel like that pretty privilege ruins the whole movie for me. But anyway, we have so much to say about that after the break. And we are back with the segment you've all been waiting for, Industry Nonsense, where we dive into thorny issues in art and publishing that other people are often afraid to touch. And this week's very hot topic, can authors have pretty privilege?
Mm.
And Victoria's going to start us off with all her thoughts.
Yes. And once again, this is a very long-standing conversation in author spaces and on social platforms. You and I have seen it for a decade since we entered the industry. We've talked to each other, we've talked to other authors. This is pretty endless, pretty cyclical. And for once, I personally think I have a very simple answer to our industry nonsense.
Mm,
Can authors have pretty privilege? 100%. Yes, absolutely. This is absolutely an advantage, especially right now in the last few years when like the visual presence has
hmm
become so important and carries that extra weight to be presentable in or conventionally attractive in photos and videos and on stage to be inherently like leaned toward.
mm,
And let's be real, like pretty privilege is absolutely real in our world, like not just in publishing, it's
mm,
part of almost every goddamn aspect of our lives.
mm.
But for today, we're talking about our space. Um, Personally, I do, I do hesitate to say that I have benefited from pretty privilege. It feels very like, so you agree, you think you're really pretty. And as like a woman who grew up overweight in the 90s, in the 2000s, who is still overweight and still like figuring out self-esteem, it is really, really difficult for me to feel like good looking. But I objectively do know there is an advantage. And I've honestly felt the pressure to chase that advantage myself, to do
Interesting.
things to maybe get me closer or further into pretty privilege. Because I do see it. And there are some authors where I'm like, you look like a goddamn model, and they are treating you like it.
hmm
And you're like, of course I want that for myself. But I can only speak for me. I do know the only reason I know how to do hair and makeup, and the only reason I figured out my skincare is this job, which going into writing books is not something you think you're going to have to learn or
Mm,
something you're going to think feel pressured to learn and to do. Like I made it through all of high school and most of college not really knowing how to do those things. I very viscerally remember coming into publishing, seeing the other authors in my debut class or veterans who were touring and thinking, I have to figure this out to
mm,
feel anywhere close to confident in this space. And even then, you're sort of faking it. But I went through an eyelash extension phase because I felt like every author around me had eyelash extensions. And there's absolutely an arms race. There's this inherent pressure to look your best, to present your best. And that seems kind of antithetical to like the work that we do, which
Hmm.
has this alone in our corners hunched over keyboards. And it's supposed to be the interior that speaks to for us, not the exterior. And yet, we live in reality. We live in this society where the exterior is so emphasized.
Hmm.
That's the nature of the world. The exterior is what we're judged on first. Don't judge a book by its cover. Sorry, we are all being judged by our covers.
Mm.
And of course, what comes with that privilege is like who is defined as pretty, who is defined as conventionally attractive. It's usually white, it's usually thin, it's usually
Mm.
this cisgendered. It's exactly what you would expect in any other sphere of what pretty privilege is. And it just isn't a factor in the author space either, but throughout the book world,
Mm.
because the space has become so visually oriented and algorithm based platforms weight towards pretty privilege. So the thumb is so on the
Yeah.
scale on TikTok, on Instagram, to elevate this certain look. And if you don't fall into that look as an author, as a creator, it can be
Mm.
really hard. You're fighting an uphill battle on something that is
Mm.
already difficult. So yes, I think pretty privilege, especially paired with an ability to be in visual mediums, is an extreme advantage. Will it make up for a shit book? I want to say no, but that's not true either.
Mm.
And weirdly, I do think the visual element can be a skill. We're learning how to make content, how to be confident, how to fake confidence in person, on camera, how to be in these spaces. We shouldn't have to know how to do hair and makeup to be valid as authors, but I know it helps me on stage perform. It feels like putting on armor. I shouldn't have to put on the armor, but again, we live in reality. One thing I did see the other day on Threads was from a fellow author, Bethany Baptiste, and she had reposted something from another Gen AI scandal. And this time it was an author account, and I'm not sure if this person is real or not, using a Gen AI person to advertise themselves and their books. And it was a very, very pretty young woman. And just like imagine what Gen AI would make a woman.
Mm.
It's that. So we're not even going to have to grapple with like normal pretty privilege, like artificial pretty
Mhm.
privilege is coming in. And of course, there's the slippery slope of like filters and what we look like and how we're adjusting our headshots. And that's a lot. I do want to say there is one thing that trumps pretty privilege in our industry, and it's just being a straight white man. Being a straight white man is like being a 10 out of 10 woman, no matter what you look like.
And if you're a straight white man who is good looking, then you might as well write the book with Gen AI because it doesn't matter. You
No.
already won.
You already
You already,
won. You're
you
already getting
already won.
flocked too, and they do not give a shit what's in your book.
So many interesting thoughts, and I think this is so great that we get to talk about it because you're really at the center of it as a female, and I have a completely different experience
Hmm.
as, a guy. What I'm going to say is controversial, um, but it's true, which is that I'm highly suspicious of good-looking authors.
I
Um,
so agree with you. You didn't suffer. And it also
yeah.
it kind of goes also with, okay, if you grew up with a lot of wealth, I'm also like, there's a different level of experience here in the
Well, I
world.
think there's something about the level of interiority and observation required to really live inside an alternate universe comes from a feeling of difference and separation, at least in my experience.
Hmm.
And yes, someone good looking can have those feelings, but I think it's often a product of an ugly duckling arc in
Hell
their
yeah.
life where they grew into their looks and their style, but as children, they were ostracized for, whatever reason. So I don't think it's so dissimilar to stand up comedy where you kind of need an angle in order to
Mm,
access that thing, that live wire that makes you be able to actually produce the art that resonates universally. And the other thing I keep thinking is you need to be self-conscious in a way, in order to be able to write, because you have to be able to go so deep inside. And I think if you're sort of born, on the scale of being mainstream beautiful, then and you embrace your whole life for being beautiful, I don't see the route to get to that level of self-consciousness.
hmm.
And it's just required to be a good writer, or at least a training of that muscle at an early age before you start to shed it. I
Yeah.
think not being white is also super key here, because even if you are a 10 and the most gorgeous human in the world and not white, I think at least growing up in America and many
Yeah.
other countries, I still think you have that feeling of separation needed to produce interiority, not just at a young age, but forever. I remember I'd go to India, and even at 12, 13, like all the girls would have like crushes and stuff, and I would be like, are you blind? Because I'd go back to America and feel so ugly. And the School for Good and Evil was so
So
much about my own feelings of ugliness. I grew up in
mm,
really an all white town. I felt positively disgusted with myself just because of that feeling of difference. And Agatha in that series is, my real conscience. I couldn't even
mm.
look in the mirror until my early 30s because the shame and panic sort of followed me for so long because I
Oh,
interpreted.
Soman, the avoiding of the mirrors. I feel like you and I just had another level of connection. The
Because
avoiding of the
it's
mirrors is so viscerally
But I
painful.
think that avoidance of the mirrors is what lets you just so go deep,
Mm-hmm.
deep inside and produce these worlds. So that's why you and I are so suspicious when, if you live in the mirror and you're living in this reality and embracing this reality, it's so different to create an alternate one. Sophie, I think, in The School for Good and Evil was that kind of alternate, unconscious inside me that was like, no, you should be confident with what you have. It's like the version of me that would have lived in India and been a complete
Mm.
brat, and taken advantage of whatever power I would have had there. But part of what I enjoy about writing is that it should shield us from all these questions, just as everything you brought up.
Mm-hmm.
And I think about the fact that in the old days, no one cared what Stephen King and Anne Rice and all these people look like because you didn't have to see their face on everything all the time. And I think you and I get to this point where deep down we're probably really sick and tired of seeing our own face in connection with writing. For the School for Good and Evil movies, I had stylists, dentists, dermatologists. I mean, I had an entire squad all the time because I was sitting next to Charlize Theron and gorgeous teenagers for every interview.
Yeah.
So I do find it kind of depressing because it's at odds why I took the job. I took it to disappear into the work
Yep.
so that at 80, you're going to enjoy my book the same way you would when I was 25. But like you said, I think that ship has sailed. But I also have hope, and I'm curious if you think about this, that as AI makes everything
Uh,
so like, these alternate avatars of fake authors and everything like that, whether at some point people come back to the familiarity of watching you, who they know, and they know your
maybe.
face, and they watch us age, and they're like,
Well,
they're
it's like the
human.
veneer discourse with people who look at actors now and they're like, there's no more character in people's faces. Even their
Mm.
teeth have no character. And you watch period piece movies now and you're like, nobody would look like that. This woman has Botox. She cannot be Lizzie Bennett. She has Botox. And I
Yes.
think there's something valid there too. Like maybe that's the authenticity we're reaching for. An interesting thing about you and me is we're both incredibly vain while also being incredibly self-conscious at the same
It's
time.
absolutely the hallmark of both of us. 100%.
It's
It
avoiding the mirror while also like trying to get one eye in the mirror. Like, do we look okay? We don't. My day is ruined. You ever had that where you look at a photo of yourself after an event and you're just like, well,
I think we
I should jump off a
compartmentalize
cliff.
though. Part of me thinks that we have our author persona now where we know
Mm,
we have to have confidence in how we look
yes.
in public spaces. And so it's
Yes.
almost like we put on, like you said, armor.
Mm-hmm.
And so all of a sudden it's like that heart activates where you're like, no, I'm actually happy with the way I look. This is great. I'm me. Everything's great. And then as soon as you come off stage, it's like you're yourself again. And you're
Yes.
like,
And
you
I
know,
think we also work in spaces, in genre spaces, where the readers we are interacting with, the colleagues we are interacting with, we inherently all share some level of nerdiness that we can
mm-hmm.
lean into and be like, hey, I'm also a weirdo. It's fine. We're all on the same level here. And you hope that works. And sometimes there's someone who's like, I'm not a weirdo like you. And you're just like, well,
But I also
go
think
over there.
the level of intensity and detail in your books and mine, I cannot see someone who grew up like everything's
Well,
hunky
it's
dory.
like, if you had an adjusted childhood, if you were popular in high school,
Yeah.
you're not funny. You're
No,
not you're
100.
not funny.
Why would you be? You're not looking for approval. You already have it.
I
You
meet
know,
people and I'm like, there wasn't enough seasoning on your development.
you didn't have enough people kicking you in the ass, telling you were terrible. And it's that's the thing.
Well,
It's
there's
like,
also that sort of I don't it's not really a saying, but it's kind of a thing, if you were popular in high school, you'll never be famous. If you were
oh,
popular in high school, you will never or if like high school was the best time of your life, you will never
Why
become
is
more
that?
than it. And it's because it's like, oh, I've reached the mountaintop, so to speak. But also, I think a lot of people, especially in the arts, who pursue um, fame or like get to
Mm.
places that give them fame through their art, yes, there's something inherently a little bit off with us. There's something inherently where we are chasing something we are missing.
Mm-hmm.
We are trying to escape through our art and give other people escapes too. So that I don't think that comes from, as you were saying, being well adjusted and going to school every morning like I'm so excited to be here
To
and
be
be
here. But
worshipped.
I think it's interesting that you bring up the we're chasing something, right? Because I think that's
Mhm.
so important, which is to sit there and write a novel for a year at least, probably in our case, 2 or 3. There has to be this unconscious driver, something that's deeply, deeply kind of like unsatisfied, that's chasing an answer to something. And it's why I was always wary of like too much therapy or too much like getting the
No,
answers to my internal
I have thought that
questions.
too, where I'm like, I don't want you to scrape the rust off. The rust is
100%.
where the taste is, and
It's
maybe
why I
it's worth
never
it to
did.
suffer for the
Yes, I never did ayahuasca. I never did any of these kind of like
so
magic psychedelic journeys that everyone says make you into like a confident, unified human.
yeah,
For
can't.
the fear of I'd come out and be like, oh, I don't need to write anymore.
Yes,
Like I have
it's
nothing
like
to say.
a singer who might have like a deviated septum or something,
Yep.
and they're like, I don't want to fix it because I might lose the thing.
You might lose the thing,
That's really, really messed up that we're like, oh, we're so psychologically damaged, but I don't really want to fix it.
Well, the question is, what's funny is I think there's a calculation, which
Mm-hmm.
is fixing it would produce some level of satisfaction and fulfillment and happiness. But is that as fulfilling and sort of like visceral as the feeling of writing,
Yeah,
you know,
as reaching the mountaintop.
when you write it? Because
What?
something about writing it, and there's something about turning unconscious pain into like this sort of conscious energy that you have power over
Yes.
that almost makes you feel it's the closest you come in your life ever to feeling like, I don't know, like you are a god of your
Yeah.
own world sort of
Yes. You
somehow.
have
So
power, you have magic. It's the question of, would you rather feel content and happy and not know what the mountaintop looks like while living your whole life at the bottom? Or would you rather cut and bleed and suffer and potentially die trying to get to the top?
yes, which makes you then question of, okay, and you
Am
and
I
I.
stupid or is everyone else stupid?
Or also the idea, like, if you could go back and take the pretty pill and be
Mm,
gorgeous at a young age, and I look like the Zach on Saved by the Bell, who I was obsessed with when I was young, would I take it? And the truth is, no, because I think that layer of
no.
self consciousness became what made me me and you, and we
Mm-hmm.
needed it. And now we can go to the doctors and be like, make me beautiful, but like at the end of the day, we already formed our
I
personality, and we're
know.
already like,
Everyone around me, I feel like I can start to see like the Botox starting to happen, and I'm
oh
like,
yeah.
oh, I don't want a needle in my face.
I did it for the Scorpion Evil movie for that year and a half,
And you
and
looked great,
it
and
looked
it was
good for
tasteful.
it worked for the photos and everything. And then as soon as it was done and I moved to Missouri, like I never did any of that stuff again, because at the end of the day, like it was for a performance. It was
Yeah,
for the
but
moment
it
of
was
what it
for
was.
part of your armor too, to be
Part of
able
the
to
job.
feel out, to walk on that red carpet, having gone to the premiere and saw you walk that red carpet and think, oh my God, he must be freaking out. I would be freaking out, and you
I
did
think
it so wonderfully.
it also came from a place of rage, of the feeling of course everything with me comes from a place of rage. It was this feeling of, this is my book.
Yeah,
I created this world. So I'm going to be able to stand here and actually not feel bad about myself, so we need to do what we need
it's
to do.
very, very, very true. To bring it back to publishing and pretty privilege, and by the end of this episode, the words pretty privilege will mean nothing to me and I will trip over them for the rest of my life. Yes, it 100% exists, and it is 100% the pretty privilege that you assume it is, where it is weighted towards like Western beauty ideals, towards white people, towards thin people, towards cisgendered people. It's very much a weight, and a weight that some people have to work against, and a weight that some people get to work with. And it's just, I don't know how we undo it, especially because, again, it's become such a visual medium, weirdly. You can opt out of it and let the work speak for itself. And sometimes that'll be perfectly fine and work. And
Mm.
sometimes there's that pressure of like, no, we need you to do these things too. and it's that much harder to make content that the algorithm will catch if you don't lean in that direction, because the algorithm leans in that direction.
We're caught in a paradox. So let's end it there because you just perfectly encapsulated the contradiction that we
Yes,
have
and
to
I'm
deal
sure
with.
there's many more voices that are going to chime in on this, who are going to have also incredible points that we missed, because this is such a huge conversation.
Yes, and the other thing is normally we don't ask, like we're not directly soliciting your feedback on one of our topics. This time we really want to hear from you. So
Mm-hmm.
please make your videos, drop your comments. Please tell us everything you think because this has to be a conversation with all of us. So tell us everything you have to say. Um, and when we are back from the break, we're going to hear what you have to say in the reader mailbag. And we are back with the reader mailbag, and we're going to answer 3 of your questions this week because we got so many good ones. We're trying to catch up. Question number 1 from Lobkey. How do you feel when you're recognized in public? Do you prefer readers to come up to you, or do you have moments where you would rather they not? What do you say?
Well, like I said, we are both incredibly vain and incredibly self-conscious.
Yeah.
So I think it is so cool, and kind of unbelievable. One of the first times I was recognized, I thought I was being served. Like, I thought someone was saying, Victoria Aveyard, you're served. It was not that. Thank God. This is just me. Everyone's going to have a different answer for this, but I would say, please say hi. I'm happy to say hello unless I am on the phone, like power walking as I argue with my mom. You might see me doing that out and about on the streets. And if I am arguing with someone on the phone, don't say hi.
Yeah.
But if I'm with a group of friends, like a group of people, and you recognize me, please, please, please say hi and make me feel so cool in front of other people. Like,
I mean,
that's the dream.
that's 100% the dream. And the funny thing is, I've had the dream happen to me. I was on this date with this very handsome French boy who was
Ooh,
just very kind of icy and cold and
French,
just, I don't know, was not
Parisian.
feeling it, I think. And we were walking through Chelsea Market, and like right at the pivotal moment of the date when you're kind of figuring out, like, do you like each other? These 3 girls came up and were like, oh my God, are you, and going through the whole thing. And I'm like, oh yeah, do you want a picture? And I take a picture, whatever. And then they left, and he looked at me and he's like, does this happen all the time? I'm like, all the time.
Oh, all the
All the
time.
time.
It's
One and only,
exhausting.
one and only time it ever
Your
happened. But to
Madonna
him,
moment.
I know. It was like karmically designed. I never saw him again, but it did make me feel better. All right,
He
our second
tells
question.
that story. I once dated a famous author.
He probably doesn't even remember my name. All right, from Kayla. Can you talk about the research inspiration process of world building? How do you create the diversity in culture and magic systems that make your worlds different, but also feel real to the audience?
I think a good rule of thumb, and to be fair, like, there's no silver bullet. A good rule of thumb while world building is to try and just always keep respect in mind, especially when you're considering like real life cultures and peoples. Trying to celebrate rather than tokenize, and also making sure that you're utilizing things because they have a reason in world, and versus just something that you thought was cool and you want it to be window dressing. This isn't foolproof. You're going to make mistakes. It's important to listen to input when you do make mistakes. For me, the balance of believability in fantasy worlds is a great question and sort of a favorite topic of mine. There's absolutely a balance in making sure you don't push an audience too far, you create too many barriers or too many obstacles. The easy way to say that is like, someone sees somebody's name on the page and there's 14 commas, there are 14 apostrophes in it. They're immediately like, damn, this is going to be tough. You don't want the audience to work against you. You don't want to give them reasons to shut the book. There is real magic in making the unreal feel real. And I had a professor once who gave me some of the best advice ever, which is you can get an audience to believe one unbelievable thing. And I try to stick to that idea. Audiences only have so much suspension of disbelief, and it's really hard to get that back when you break it.
Perfect. And then the third question came from Lindsay. I would love to hear thoughts on the middle grade market. People keep saying that the market for young readers is shrinking. What are your thoughts on that? And I can take this one because that's principally what I write. And I think middle grade is shrinking because new middle grade readers are lacking literacy. We talked about this last week. After the COVID years, plus the over reliance on devices is shrinking people's attention spans. So kids aren't seeing books as a default source of entertainment as you and I did, growing up. And then the sophisticated young readers, the ones who really grew up reading a lot, are moving almost straight to YA because they only have a few options in middle grade that feel like intense and
Yeah.
complex enough for them. Keeper of the Lost Cities, Percy Jackson, School for Good and Evil, and those are the only, maybe the Nevermore series. I feel like those are the only four I can think of off the top of my head. So there's just not much in terms of upper middle grade.
Mm.
So I think you have to accept that there's two middle grade markets now, a younger one that's for readers of lower literacy levels than was before, right? They're reading Dogman and Wimpy Kid, and they don't really want to
Mm.
go any more complex than that. And that's almost the majority of the middle grade market. Or there's an upper one where you really need to go harder edge than you would have for all these years in the past because they're expecting YA level intensity, but content wise at a level that they can handle at 10, 11, 12. So
Right.
that's my advice, is you have to pick a lane. Are you
Mm.
going younger middle grade, in which case it's younger than it used to be, or are you going older middle grade, in which case it's older than it used to be? We're getting to the extremes.
Yeah.
And
Damn.
if you'd like to submit a question for next week to our reader mailbag, you're going to email it to mail@plottwistpod.net, PLOTTWISTPOD.net. And our final segment, as always, is Plot Twists we want to see in the real world this week. And I can start us off because all I want is a teleport device to London, because I feel like that city is the most like myself. It's this intersection of like every culture. It's like this almost like Star Wars clearinghouse of every country on earth. It's very literary. People are always reading books on the tube. The form of masculinity there is much softer than it is than in America. Everyone's so stylish. I would just love to have a sliver of my life there, but geographically it's kind of impossible. It's like it's just far enough where it makes everything very difficult.
Yeah. I feel that. I would love a Scotland teleporter. And I definitely, we talk about what's the red line where something happens and we decide we do not want to live in America anymore.
Yeah.
And Scotland is the way to go.
Yeah.
My plot twist, I would also today I saw a clip on TikTok, or yesterday I saw a clip on TikTok about female fighter pilots, and it was just like really got me going. I think fighter jets and fighter pilots are just so cool.
Yeah.
And my friend was like, "Oh, so you really like the Blue Angels or the Red Arrows?" And it got me thinking, the exhibition pilots. And my twist is, I want a movie where the Blue Angels have to go into action, like Top Gun Blue Angels.
Yeah.
And they're the only hope for whatever reason. Kind of like, say what you want about the movie Battleship, but the moment in the movie Battleship, and I know I've now gone into a realm where you're like, I don't know what you're talking about. There is a part in the movie Battleship premise. Aliens are invading. They have a weapon that destroys all digital systems. The U.S. Navy, the incredibly technologically advanced U.S. Navy, is immobilized. They can't do anything because they have all these digital systems. And at the end of the movie, in Pearl Harbor, they realize the USS Missouri, which is now a museum ship, is analog, and they can recommission it. And they have the old veterans who work on the ship. It's all set to AC/DC.
You have this all worked out.
Well, no, this is a real movie.
Oh, this
Soman.
isn't Battleship.
This is
the
Battleship.
One with Rihanna?
Yes, with Rihanna. Say what you want about that movie. It had its flaws, but the sequence where they are recommissioning the Missouri with the veterans, like taking the nuts and bolts off, and they're like, torpedo in the tube, y'all ready for this? And then they put the flame in the boiler and they start this big ship and it pulls out of Pearl Harbor and they go to fight with the aliens. That is not true. I'm not the only person. There are dozens of us who love
only one who had these emotions watching Battleship.
A similar vibe. That's what I'm looking for, is the moment in Battleship when the Missouri gets recommissioned.
Okay, Victoria just gave all of you would-be screenwriters your marching orders. I'm not at all convinced about the success of this.
When I say I have like boomer dad tendencies.
100%. Somebody write this just so Victoria doesn't, spare us all.
Quite a twist. I would watch that film.
I wouldn't. But anyway.
Okay, we're going to be 1 for 18 on our plot twists now.
1 for 18. Meanwhile, you still can get more of us. I don't know why you would. But my Substack every Tuesday is my ultra emotional diary confession. You actually should read it. I give you sort of some deep philosophy that you can reject or accept. And then Instagram at Soman C. What are your headquarters?
Too many. I've got too many fortresses to man. But you
Oof.
can find me on TikTok. TikTok.
Tic Tac. Oh,
We're going to leave that in. You can find me on TikTok, Substack, Instagram, and Threads.
and we will be back next week with I don't know what, but we can guarantee you it'll be fun. See you then.
See ya. Thanks, guys.
Plot Twist is hosted by Victoria Aveyard and Soman Chainani. It's produced and edited by Liam Billiam. Our logos, art, and graphics are by Michael Blank. The music is by Thieves and Louis Adrian. Production support from June Secchia.
If you enjoyed this podcast, please subscribe to Plot Twist wherever you listen to podcasts and drop us a review to let us know how we're doing. See you next Thursday.